There should be some timestamps in the video and the description for parts of what I'm going to talk about. Today I wanted to try something new and discuss something that's relevant to the artistic journey and process, and take my time to explain my view on some things and my own experiences and how I deal with some obstacles to my creative drive, hopefully helping others that are having trouble with their own art, or to show that it isn't weird so as to not be discouraged in continuing making what you want to make. A lot of this is going to be things I wrote down in a script, as I have problems with talking continuously without pre-planning or heavily editing what I say, and I usually stutter a lot otherwise, so topic-centric commentary isn't something I do much at all. Constructive criticism and general comments on the video or art itself would be very much appreciated, as I want to improve. If you like the video, giving it a like or saying you like it in the comments would give a good indication that I'm doing something right, and see if I should make more of this kind of video. To the topic at hand, as you'll see with the process of this piece and how much changes I make to it, it becomes very easy to see that I was having a hard time with making it, getting to a point where I could stop while thinking anything close to, yes, this is what I wanted, and being able to show it as I had intended to was getting difficult. One part because of technical difficulties like Paid Tool Side 2 and Hypercam, the recording software, crashing, or the computer turning off when I'd have sworn it was charging, but it wasn't, or the dreaded drawing tablet issues appearing sometimes. Another part from being rusty because of being unable to draw for 2 weeks despite my itch and need to draw driving me crazy from having been accustomed to drawing frequently because I love art. And yet another part from deciding to make an attempt at making something a bit out of my comfort zone while these other issues were rearing their ugly heads, thus being unsatisfied with this piece at various points during the process of its creation, and being exasperated by the obstacles not letting me finish it in peace. So I found it fitting to talk about the overall nature of being unsatisfied by things you make yourself. If you're an artist or a creator, more likely than not, there's going to be times when you really aren't satisfied with your work, where you're frustrated actually. It applies beyond drawings too, and it can be for any number of reasons. It can be heavily influenced by outside sources like invisible pressure from others, or by inner ones like you generally not liking your art, or mental illness and disability, maybe an injury, impacting your ability to do work, especially work that you could consider good enough. Whatever the case, in the numerous reasons and situations in one's life, it can even get to a point where you question if it's worth it to keep going, or if you'll even be able to. I get that. I love making art, and I've made an attachment to making it since I was very young, and it's basically been a part of me for a really long time. In my 20 years of life, with a non-stop affinity for drawing and painting since I was making garbled scribbles while in my diapers as a baby, it's been a road full of difficulties alongside the rewards that come with making things with your own will and choosing. Going through bumps in your artistic journey isn't rare in my experience. For others, I've noticed it can even deter them from creating anything anymore because of how overwhelming things can be. It's understandable, and I often wish them luck after they quit. But there being times or even a long time you aren't satisfied or like your art enough doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop. I don't expect to be able to cheer up or motivate everyone and anyone going through a rut right now, but I do think it's important to see other possibilities before ever reaching that conclusion, quitting everything or even stopping from making one particular piece or concept. For the general unsatisfaction, if making things in one area is driving you mad and disappointed way too often, check other types of things you can do. Stretch out into other fields or subjects. Specifically in drawing, it could be to check out other things you can draw, like character pieces, environments, life studies, prop and item art, checking and changing the kinds of characters/objects you draw, from humanoids to animals or aliens or plants or buildings. For art, it can be changing your medium from 2D and 3D, or watercolor and digital and multimedia, or from penciling to sculpting. The format you usually abide by can also be changed from illustrative standalone pieces to animation or comics with storytelling. And usually for professional work, it can be changing your attempted field of expertise from stuff like character design to environmental design or graphic design or general illustration or 3D modeling. It could very well be that you're unsatisfied from boredom of your medium constricting you in ways you've become disillusioned with. You might have known the general gist that you wanted to make art, but not what kinds you wanted to do, or have yet to experience the kinds you'd like. But there's also how maybe you didn't want to make something in the visual medium, and instead might want to make music or start writing, or make the illusion of movement with animations, but aren't keen with the drawing aspects of it, which in that case might be solved by dabbling into 3D animation, where the principles of it are the same, but doesn't inherently require being good at drawing while already having a 3D model ready. Of course, there's this tried and true advice to step out and take some time off for as long as you need to. Whether that's a couple hours for new perspective and fresh eyes on the things you've made, or months if you've really been driven to a deep anhedonia when it comes to your creations. Though, in that last case, depression might be skewing your love for things, and if you quit because of that, you can still come back to doing what you once found joy in. If you're rusty and frustrated by how you just don't seem to make good enough things, be patient with yourself, as harshly judging your output will make it harder to get better like you want to. You can keep trying, maybe make it a social thing to bring back a sense of fun in your art, and involve friends or other people in what you do. If you're able to interact with other artists as friends or acquaintances, you can better grow and discuss problems you might have with people that could better advise and talk about issues affecting your art. Depression and other mental health issues can really take away from your wanting to do things, so it would be beneficial to have some priority on that, as a lot of artists tend to be depressed, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. You won't lose your creativity from trying to manage your feelings and conditions, and it's pretty common. Actually, it's something that can really affect your life beyond art. If you've been unsatisfied with your creations for a long time, first ask yourself if you really are willing to continue in better circumstance, and if when you find and solve parts of your problems, if you'd want to continue. As in, do you truly love making art, or do you feel forced to by others? This might be strange to hear, but I'm saying this because your mental health and desire for what you want to do is important. And sometimes there's situations when you've been driven to do something that you find out you don't actually like doing in the long run, or stopped loving even when you've learned a lot from the journey that led to that conclusion. If you find that's the case, there's nothing wrong from trying something else entirely. Choose with your own health in mind. Your decision doesn't have to be written in stone, and like I've said before, you can revisit that choice if you think you might have been wrong in stopping. Besides all that, if instead of being continually unsatisfied by your medium and chosen depicted subjects, it's that you're unsatisfied by a piece and its flaws, I have a few tips for that. For the keep trying with that particular piece approach, you can do some smaller warm-ups to get yourself ready. Even better to take a break, do stretches, some hand exercises to prevent the knees out of repetitive strain injuries. Maybe rest and eat, as artists can get really into making things and drive ourselves crazy while neglecting to care for ourselves, which can only worsen frustrations from declining ability from trying so hard. I'm going to show some hand exercises you can do on screen actually, to drive that point home. The images are from WebMD, but there's way more you can do than the ones I'm showing with the stress ball pressure and the gentle fist squeeze and release pictures. More details on hand exercises and the like should be in the description, by the way. Don't put a hard, unrealistic deadline on yourself that doesn't keep in mind your needs for rest. High expectations with little breaks can result in disaster or barely finishing things while having significant risk of injury and strain. Really, don't deprive yourself of sleep and food because you haven't reached a level where you're okay with what you made. People need rest and sustenance. In this piece, I actually did take some breaks. I knew being tired from looking at my own piece and all that was going to make it harder for me to make something I'd like out of it. Other than that, you can also do some studies. Better so if it's relevant to the kinds of content you're having trouble with. Figure studies is the most common for character illustration, but you can do studies of architecture or fire or whatever else to learn how they work and look like, and extract it to your own style or needs for what you have to make later on. References are vital to keep in mind. In the beginning of my art time-lapse, you might have noticed I had a few windows open for references to the character mint chocolate cookie from Cookie Run and the intended pose. Then later on, fire and a Cookie Run level where the character was running. I was actually looking at even more references in another window, like a floral shoes bottom, sole, and realistic running poses. Beyond that, I even looked up some inspiring art, things I thought looked cool even though my art wasn't going to imitate them really, but gave me ideas when I got stumped and frustrated by what I ended up doing at the beginning. If you have anyone you can talk to about your art that you can trust to give some constructive criticisms or ideas for what you can do with the art piece you're unsatisfied with, that's one route you can take. Then, if you think none of that can work for the same piece you're doing, then you can scrap it all together and start anew and mishmash that concept you originally had with something else later on, when you can come up with it and see if that sticks. Really, there's a lot of options. Just remember that you can always improve and your health is the most important thing, even as a professional or someone striving to make a living off your art. Well, I hope that could help, and if you enjoyed or found my advice and outlook to be useful, then your input through a like or comment would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see my previous videos, you can check out my channel, subscribe, or see some video recommendations at the video's end screen. See you later then!